Good morning, West Contra Costa Unified family. Thank you so much for joining us this morning for our second Supporting Racial Justice and Equity session in the West Contra Costa Unified School District. I know this is an incredibly challenging time for everyone. The past week has been incredibly stressful with the smoke and the air. You know, we can't go inside, we can't go outside. It's just not an easy time. So with all that said, thank you for taking time and being with us today to be in this really, really important conversation that we are embarking on together as a whole district. So I'm going to ask us to move into our first slide. So just a reminder to everybody about why we're here today and why we are taking these Fridays, the first 3 Fridays of every month, to do this work. And we believe that the injustices of the past and the present demand that we as individuals and an organization act as change agents for our African American community, students, staff, family, and friends. And we know that the overall performance of our African American students in the district significantly trails other students. And I would say that this time, this very, very stressful time in our world, is just working to exacerbate that. So it's even more important than ever that we're in these conversations. We know the whole nation is going through a time of reckoning and action, and we have to actively participate as change makers. We also know that some of our African American staff have reported feeling unsupported in the district, and this is a time to dig in together and figure out what we need to do to make sure people feel supported. I believe as an organization, we want to do better. I hear that from all of our stakeholders across the board, that we want to do better. And these conversations help us begin to figure out how we can do better. And as an individual, this is such individual work. I know that I can do better. I need to keep reflecting and learning and working to make sure the leadership I provide is as good as it possibly can be. We know that over the past few years, our district passed 2 key resolutions to support African American students. The first was a positive climate resolution that really spoke to the disproportional suspension and discipline consequences faced by African American students. And the second was a resolution in support of the achievement and success of African American and Black students in the WCCUSD that spoke more to academics and social emotional support. I believe we've worked to improve outcomes for African American students through trainings, initiatives, programs, and dialogue, but we've got to commit to wholehearted, personal, systemic, and institutional change. There's many, many, many folks who have preceded me for many years who have been working on this, and now we've got to do it as a system together. We have a unique opportunity this year with our Friday professional learning, with this flexible schedule, to have the time to do this and make a deeper impact on racial justice and equity across our district. The vision is, in a way, simple, but it builds on each other. So first, if we can build relational trust, true relational trust, then we can engage in authentic education and dialogue with one another about racial injustice in our system. And for some of our schools and departments, that's the starting point, just building that trust enough to be in dialogue together. And if we can learn and dialogue together, we can begin to identify the practices and the policies that do not benefit African American students and staff. And if we can identify those practices and policies, then we can begin to dismantle those systems together. And if we can dismantle those, then we can build new practices and policies in our district that will ensure African American students and staff in our district thrive. Our goals for the year: to create spaces like today for education and reflection on our own behavior, our own biases and hopes, to learn more about racism, white supremacy culture, implicit bias, and other relevant topics that are affecting us, to create a space for safe, trusting, and productive conversations among staff, to identify site and district patterns and outcomes that need to be addressed and improved, and any racist behavior in the district and dismantle policies that contribute to that racist behavior and unjust outcomes. And really, at the end of the day, ensure that African American youth are supported and empowered, and I would say loved in every way. Today's session, what are we doing today? So today, our work is around beginning to understand and build awareness of the Black student experience in education, and in particular, our district. So our agenda today, as a whole district, we're going to hear some personal stories from our youth who currently go to our schools. We're going to hear a personal story from a past student who is also one of our current employees. And we're going to share a little bit about how we hope you reflect together going into your site discussions. At school sites, you'll have an opportunity to debrief what you heard, saw, listened to today, and you'll get a chance to share your own personal stories, talk to each other, and learn from one another. Last week was the beginning of much needed work that's to come. And again, I thank everybody for diving in that together. I got so many notes and emails, questions, thoughts. People put all sorts of incredible comments in the thought exchange. So I really thank everybody for engaging. Just a reminder that the discourse on race and equity, it's not one size fits all. It's not a process that will be neat. The work requires flexibility and patience, and we've got to remember that it's not going to be structured and clean. It's a process that's going to bring up more questions than simple, easy answers. And that self-reflection is critical. Diving deep into your own work, your own patterns, your own behavior, your own thinking is really, really critical here. And I'm trying to do a lot of that myself. This is my last slide, and then I'm going to turn it over. So today we're going to use stories, storytelling, documentarianism to learn a little bit more about the Black experience in West Contra Costa. And why stories? Well, telling stories, one of the most powerful means to influence, teach, and inspire. And storytelling forges connections among people and between ideas. And stories help convey culture, history, and values that unite people. So I'm excited to get started with a couple different kinds of stories. The first thing we're going to do today is we're going to hear a video, watch a video from some of our students from Kennedy High School. Before we do that, I'd like to introduce Helene Burks, who's one of our assistant principals at Kennedy High School, to share a little bit about the context of this video, how it came to be, and why it was made before we watch it. So Helene Burks, thanks so much for being here, and turn it over to you.
Thank you. Good morning, West Contra Costa family. I'm here to provide some context for the videos you're about to see. But first, I do want to acknowledge the heaviness that many of us are carrying and recognize that this week has been especially filled with loss of young people in our community. So with that said, I want to honor the lives of Lonnie, Eric, Kevin, and Nasir, as well as send love and strength to Alyssa. I ask that you join in honoring their lives and their stories, even as we transition to hearing the stories of other students. The stories you're about to see come from a series that we did in the school year at Kennedy from 2018 to 2019. Students were invited to share their perspectives as part of a PD series on race and identity. And they were in knowledge that this would be shared with staff members to help us better serve them. The videos were then organized according to racial and ethnic groupings, as you see on the slide. And these were then shown to staff at Kennedy in the second session of a 3-part PD arc at Kennedy, facilitated by our transformation team. Our first session focused on the reflection of our own adult identities. The second session centered student identity through the videos and discussion. And the third session focused on connections between the two. Team members who put on this project were Felicia Phillips, Sabrina McCarver, and current district teachers, Jonathan White and Harrison Blatt, which are the two voices with bass that you will hear in the video, along with Ian Bader. Alex McIver and myself rounded out the team. It is now my honor to introduce you all to the brilliant scholars and powerful leaders, Zaria and Marshayla, both of whom are now Kennedy alumni, Christian, who attends another school, and Asia, who is a current junior.
Can you tell us your name?
Asia Fontenot.
And what grade you're in?
I'm a 9th grader at Kennedy High School.
And can you tell us how you identify yourself racially or ethnically?
How I identify myself racially is both my parents are Black. I'm obviously Black, African American. My dad is mixed with Creole, which is a little bit of everything. So I have inherited that.
What is your name?
I am Rosaria McMillan, and I'm a junior at Kennedy High.
How do you identify yourself racially or ethnically?
I identify as Black.
What part of your identity do you believe people notice about you first?
People believe that since I'm Black, I struggle with academics, and I'm loud, or I struggle with poverty and just things like that.
Can you tell us your name and your grade?
Well, I'm Christian Nixon, and my grade is 9th grader, and I'm a freshman at John F. Kennedy High School in Richmond, California.
How do you identify yourself racially?
That's a good question. I identify myself as Black, and I think that's special.
Oh, my name is Marshayla. I'm a senior. I identify myself as an African-American woman, and culturally, I would say probably like, you can probably get a Southern feel from me because my family is from down South, so I can relate on some people with that.
So when you walk into a room, what do you think is the first thing someone notices about you?
How I look and what my skin color is. That's always key, because I'm a Black male also, and that's the only thing they see about us. Or see about me.
Oh, definitely my skin tone, and then probably my eyes because they're lighter than most people's. So those are the two things I know people notice about me as soon as they walk in.
What does it mean to be Black?
What it means to be Black is having each other's back. It means everybody coming together and supporting one another, everybody sticking up for each other and participating in what each other has to have.
Honestly, I feel like being Black, it's an honor because it's like, I don't know how to explain it, but it's just something that I've always been proud of. No matter if people have tried to downgrade me for being Black or treat me differently for being Black, it's always been something that I'm proud of.
To be Black, I feel like we all have a little Southern in us just because most of our grandparents are from down South. And also, we're cautious about what we do because we're scared we might get judged about it based on our skin tone.
Beauty. Not only that, I'm a threat to the structure of society. And honestly, I'm Black and I'm proud, and it means unity. it's very, very, very privileged to be black. Not only that, it's because of all our history and what we mean and where we come from as a people. Because I can have a say that, hey, I was black, I was a part of this. This is what I was a part of. You know, not just looking back on slavery, just looking past on the future, like our first black president. The things that's doing now, like what I'm doing right now. So that's what it feels. That's what it means to be black.
What do you wish adults at Kennedy knew about black students at this school?
We're not as problematic as you think we are. There are some who are, but that's in every race, and that's in every high school. That's gonna happen, but it's not just the black kids doing something.
No disrespect to the teachers, because the teachers do a good job here. But I wish they would understand that, hey, this is black and Latinos here. But I want you guys to understand, it's not just because we don't want to do our work. You know, just help us, but just don't label us because we're black. Understand where we're coming from. And I wish you can show us a little bit more respect. You know, treat us as equal people, because that's what we are. We're all human beings. There's no different things, or you're this or that. That's what I want your teachers to think of us. And me, myself, as a black person.
It's like, I don't know, the day-to-day struggles we go to, just based on being racially profiled outside. Like, let's say I'm going, like, for example, one time I was in Kaleidoscope Cafe in Point Richmond, and I brought some food in there, and then it was majority white people in there, because that's like majority of what's over there. So I walk in, I'm with a friend or whatever, we sit and we're chilling, and I bring outside food. So the lady said I couldn't be in there because I had outside food. Mind you, it's a cafe. You guys don't really serve food like that. You guys sell mainly, cafe drinks. So I was confused. I was confused off of that. And, just, I don't know, get into school, because a lot of our parents work in the mornings, especially mine. Like, it takes me a while to get here. Just because I don't live on this side of Richmond, I live on, like, the further side, so it's just a little harder.
How I think Kennedy can change for black students is I would like there to be more African American teachers, so then they can set a great example, a better example for students like blacks. I think it'll be a good opportunity to have more African American teachers so they can talk about their experiences and how they have gotten help.
First, I would change we coming together, because Kennedy High School is lots of black students, and we should come together because we should know that we're black, and we should be together, and not all this fighting, selling drugs or seeing who has the better clothes or something. I would change everything, because they say Kennedy is this, Kennedy's that. Don't stereotype us, So that's what I would change.
And how would you make those changes?
How would I make those changes? Talk to people more. Greet them. Get out to the Richmond community. That's actually doing something. Like, I'm not one of those people that just say things just to be saying it. I don't go back on my words. You feel me? Like, that's just how I am. If I say something, I go out to the community. And I have done that before. So that's what I think we do, because I really do want to change the Richmond community of how it's seen by other people. Richmond is Richmond pride. So let's show us that, just like at Kennedy High School. They say Kennedy High School, like Coach Darling said, once an eagle, always an eagle. So let's show that. That's what Kennedy's all about.
Definitely probably to remodel the campus, because I know if I go to I feel like the campus it's a little old school. I know if I go to like my granny house and it's clean and stuff, I'm gonna want to keep it clean. But if I go to somebody's house and I see that they keep it dirty, I'm not gonna clean it up for them. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like it's just based on where we're at. And also, like, to make it better for black students, I don't know, we just need more culture, more spirit. Like, there should be music when we go outside. We should not just be dry all the time, because that's what kind of makes people want to find something else to do, want to make some drama happen. We need something to do. It's just boring. We don't have nothing to do besides after school extracurricular activities. we're talking about during the school day. We need something to do, especially during lunch.
What is a school experience that has helped you as a Black student?
Probably have to say being reached out and looked at more for my academics, because some students don't get extra help or they don't get extra opportunities because of their skin tone or what they racially identify as. But me being Black, I've gotten extra help and extra just like extra opportunities to do something.
Well, the teachers are nice. I've gotten good grades. My academic skills are better. I have learned a lot of things from these teachers and how I know I'm African American, Black. I have learned way more than people expect me to learn. People always expect Black students to always not have that much knowledge and expectations, but we have lots of expectations.
What is a school experience that has helped you as a Black student?
Probably my freshman year when two classmates, Xavier and Malik, they passed away. I feel like that helped me because it made me want to, value life more, probably especially school, because both of these guys were in school. One was on their way to school. You know what I mean? So it's like you just want to value that education because you just never know when it's your last day. You want to just watch your surroundings and just make sure you're safe. Make sure you're with someone. That's like I don't know.
Thank you, everybody. There's a few more minutes of that video left. And today, when you go back to your sites, all of your leaders and facilitators have access to the full video, and we'll make sure that you do. But we wanted to make sure you got a chance to hear from our students and their experience. For the next portion of this, I'm going to turn it over to LaShante Smith, who helps coordinate positive climate in the district, who's going to introduce our next speaker. So thank you, LaShante.
Thank you. So again, we are telling stories today. And so we have another story to share. And that story is from Mr. Adofo Bandele. Mr. Bandele is an alumni of our district. He graduated from Harry Els, and he is now an instructional aide at El Cerrito High. Through his story, he will tell you about his journey through West Contra Costa Unified School District and all of the schools he attended. And I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Bandele now to just let us know his journey as a student in our system.
Good morning, everyone. How are you? I hope everybody's doing fine. My story is kind of like a before and after story, with the after not being so positive of an outcome, but it's okay. Today, I'm doing fine. My story is about attending. I first attended elementary at Coronado. If you guys are familiar with Coronado Elementary. And I believe it was around 1961 that I started there in the kindergarten. And I loved the kindergarten. That was a great experience for me. I mean, I always remember when I think of my experience with the district, I always remember the kindergarten. And I had a teacher, her name was Mrs. Howe. She was a nice person. And I always remember that pleasant kindergarten experience. However, it didn't all work out like that. One thing I like to say that I don't remember any bad experiences in school. I don't remember being mistreated. I don't have any, stories to tell you that, oh, this teacher did this or this teacher did that. I don't have any stories like that. However, my story begins with the fact that although I graduated from Harry Els in 1975, I actually never learned to read, write, or do basic math. And that's the crux of my story in this district, is that the fact that I never learned to read, write, or do math while attending school in the district. I graduated in 75, like I said. I after I graduated, I had difficulties because it was time for me to produce, and I couldn't produce because I couldn't read. I tried to join the military, couldn't do that. Then I ended up finding my way into a program. It's called a CETA program in Richmond, downtown Richmond, and they help people get into learning skills. But at that time, like I said, I couldn't read, couldn't write, and I took a test. And luckily, the person that was monitoring the test was a friend of a family member. And when I on the test, I didn't pass. I scored probably like 2 points less than I should have, because I was just putting down anything because I couldn't read. So I was just putting down anything. And so she passed me. She gave me an extra point, a couple of points. And I was able to get into a program called CETA. And that helped me linger on for some years. But my thing is this, is that not reading, I'm sorry, because it's getting hot. I'm sitting in this car trying to. I did not care for the fact that I was pushed through school, and that I learned to read later on in my life at the age of 26. I taught myself to read at age 26, and I got accepted, went back to Contra Costa, graduated from Costa, got accepted to Berkeley, went to Berkeley, graduated from Berkeley. And that's the crust of what happened with me in this district, that the fact that they passed me along. I never flunked, I never failed. And that was the interesting part about my experience with the district, is that they had kind of like a two-tier approach to students. Like, if you were a student that was disruptive and you came to class and you could not read, because see, I had many, you could not read and you were disruptive, you failed. They got you out of there. However, if you were like me, a student that was courteous, polite, nice, and you couldn't read, they kept us and they passed us. And if you want to say who's culpable, of what is the school's culpable, because we know that there's the parent, the child, and the school district in terms of how we educate our students and who are responsible. We have the parent, the child, and the kid. But in this situation, what is the school culpable of? Well, the school is culpable of passing me. They knew I'm in this district for 13 years, from the kindergarten to the 12th grade. They knew I couldn't read, but because didn't disrupt the class, because I was polite, I could just sit in the back in the class and I would get through. And I would, and the only time I would do work is when grading time came. When grading time came, that was a frustrating part for me, because I knew that I didn't have the grades, but they would work things out for me so that I could get a passing grade. And that was what happened to me within this district. I remember that in the third grade, no, it was the second grade, my teacher told me, and this was a relief for me, because I was apprehensive about not being able to read around other kids. And so what happened one day, she said to me, my second grade teacher, nice woman, she called me up to his desk, put her arm around me, hugged me passionately. And she said to me, I guess some people can read and some people just can't. And I guess you happen to be one of those that just can't. Now, you might be infuriated about that, but that was a relief for me, because I said, okay, I'm one of those that just can't read. Okay, so now I don't even really have to try. And that's pretty much how I lingered through the district, not trying that much, because I was one of those that just couldn't read. Now, as I got older, I realized that wasn't true, but it had set in. The not trying had set in, because for so many years I believed that I couldn't do it. And I wasn't mad at that teacher, because I think she was just a victim of her own people's racist beliefs about us. And that's why I think that this happened to so many of us, because of the fact they didn't believe we could do the work. The district didn't believe we could do the work. So why waste your time on all these students? And if we say that, is it racism? Was it structural racism? Well, I could say that I know that I wasn't the only one. All my friends, most of my friends, could not read or write functionally. We had a few amongst us that could. Some could a little bit, some could, and then there were others that just couldn't, and I was in that group that just couldn't. But I didn't feel like I was out the norm, because my friends were in the same situation as me. We were always going through the school system that was passing us, those of us who weren't capable. And that's one of the culpabilities of this school, is that I feel that my school records are all what's the word I use for it, are all false. All my grades are false, because how can you get from kindergarten to the 12th grade and graduate not knowing how to read or write? Or how can you pass a math class? And when I graduated high school, I didn't know how to do division. So how did I get through all my math class? Basically by just being a polite student and not causing trouble. So this is, this is what's going on within our district. Now let's fast forward to today. Like I said, I taught myself to read at age 26, took myself back to Contra Costa, graduated from there, got accepted to Berkeley, and graduated from Berkeley. So I kind of lost my train of thought. So if I can't do that, do basic math, how did I get through those classes? Well, they passed me. And what motivated me to change the circumstances, I have to hurry up because I don't have 8 minutes. What motivated me to change the circumstances was an accident in 1986. I had a terrible accident. I used to race road bikes. I got hit by a car, lost a kidney, almost lost my life. But that experience brought me out of the hospital to correct everything about myself. I knew I couldn't read, but I had that experience said, you're going to teach yourself to read. That experience said, you're going to go back to school. And that's exactly what I did. I taught myself to read. I made my way through Contra Costa. I got into UC Berkeley, made my way through UC Berkeley. Then I moved to Africa for a year after that. I got accepted, taught in Africa, came back here with a desire to make a change. However, something happened along the way. We're not going to get into that today. But now let's fast forward to today. Here I am working in the school district with a desire to prevent from happening to me to happening to others. But yet and still, today I'm dealing with the same scenario of students who can't read in classes that they're not equipped to succeed in. If you ask me what was schools guilty of with me is assessment and placement. They assess me incorrectly, place me incorrectly. They're doing the same thing to the students I work with to this day. I work with students, African-American students that can't read and are in an English class that they're going to fail. And they generally do. Who placed them in a class? And when I ring the bell, like, hey, look, this student can't read. Why are they in this English class? The response I get has not been helpful, pleasing. And in fact, I've been called a troublemaker for constantly raising this issue about what's happening to Black students in these classrooms that they aren't prepared for. And that's what I'm labeled a troublemaker for constantly bringing this to the faculty's attention. But still I persist. And so the thing is, though, that I've never had a white student that couldn't read and was placed in a class that they were incapable to deal with. Every white student I ever had, such an issue was addressed immediately. And that white student was taken out of my hands and placed in a situation that they thought was better for him. However, my African students, they do not do this. They leave them with me. And they generally end up failing these classes because they wasn't prepared to take them in the first place. It's a failing situation that we keep putting Black students in to this day right now, just as it was when I was in the district. So, something has to change. A lot has to change. We can't continue down if I was to say what has changed, that I don't see students being given grades as much like I was. Like, if they have to show that they have some skill now. That part has changed in terms of that. I don't see many teachers just giving students passing grades that, they don't deserve. That part I don't see. What happens is that they just usually wash those students out. Now they're just failing them. They're not doing them what they did with me in terms of, passing us anyway, because my records are false. My grades are false within the district. That's serious,
Thank you so much, Mr. Bandele, for your reflections, your powerful story. This gives us a good setting for us now to transition into our site sessions. Our goal today is to better understand the Black student experience in our district. So as you go into your sessions, your facilitators will simply ask you what you thought, how you felt, what you're taking away from these stories about race and equity. We want to try to highlight your major takeaways. What struck you about the stories? What did you get from them? And then where do we need to go next in our learning and understanding? Thank you so very much for being with us today. And I hope you get a lot out of your breakout sessions.
Thank you, everyone. We are finished with our central part today, and we really, really appreciate everything. So as you head back, thank you to the Kennedy students, Mr. Bandele, everybody else for this session. A couple of items to keep in mind as you head back on this final slide around being with each other. And we will see everybody next Friday in some shape or fashion for our next session. But good luck this afternoon. We wish you well in your conversations, and thank you so much again.